Hello, welcome to Politricking with myself, TD Madia. This is episode 2 of season 5 of a politics podcast brought to you by Eyewitness News. I think you cannot talk about the 2024 election results without mentioning the performance of the ANC in Gauteng. We live in this province. We love this province. We want to see it succeed. But we are watching as a government, a minority government, and I believe the person who joins me in the studio calls it differently. But we've been watching this government at play, and I think many of us have our fingers crossed that whatever happens, it works out for the better good, right? For the greater good of this province, so you and I feel a little bit safer, so that services work and that Gauteng takes its position as a thriving province in this country, that we're not seen and associated with concepts such as DK. I'm joined by the number one citizen of the province. Premier Panyaza Lesufi is in studio with me at the moment. And he's not just a premier, he's also, as you know, the ANC chairperson that will have to answer for how they performed at the elections. Thank you for your time. Hello.
Thank you so much. Are you well, T?
I'm okay. This is a long time coming. I've been looking
tell
for
the
you.
listeners I invited myself.
You actually this time around you did. This time around you actually did. Let's start this conversation with where you find yourself, right? And how difficult. And when I say where you find yourself, I'm obviously speaking about you've returned as Premier of Gauteng,
Yeah.
but you return under very different conditions without a clear majority. You just did an assessment as the ANC in the province of your performance. You've been quite clear about what the ANC needs to do as a way forward. So you come back with all of that, negotiations having happened, your assessment of how and where you find yourselves at the moment.
Well, difficult times, difficult periods, to be quite frank. We have to accept the environment that is currently existing in our province, but I owe my gratitude to the political parties that have approached us, willing to work with us, officially and unofficially, and political parties that have indicated that not only the provincial government but also local government will try to work with us. We've just received a new correspondence from the Democratic Alliance on how they want to work with us in Tshwane, a demonstration that broadly across all political spectrum, the African National Congress is recognized for its leadership, its capabilities, but obviously from the voters' point of view and the outcome of the elections, we're smacked. I mean, there's no way to avoid it. We're heavily punished by voters, and I'm glad that the Lekgotla over the weekend accepted that there's no dispute about this. We can't justify the wrongs that voters found out of us. We can't also justify the performance that we had. It was poor performance, and therefore we just have to dust ourselves, rise and re-establish our structures, and we're working very, very hard to do so.
For those of you who are listening, he says the Lekgotla this past weekend because you're listening to this 2 weeks after the fact. I'm away for a while, so this conversation is taking place in my absence, hopefully, while I'm in the bush, but it's an important conversation nonetheless. It's interesting that you speak about the DA. I'll come to the DA just now. I want to speak about the decision to be explicit, because and it's not an easy issue, it's a political thing.
Yeah.
Political speak is not to be upfront and clear in the public domain about your performance. It's to find easier, softer language to explain what everybody else can see. You didn't. I watched you over the weekend at the Lekgotla say, we've lost, we are defeated. And it must be, those kind of words are not words you hear. You hear tactical retreat, you hear all manner of language, flowery language to explain what's happened to the ANC in the 2024 elections. Why be so explicit? What are you hoping to jolt out of members when you're that clear and in the public domain?
It's to change behavior. If you speak the language that you are speaking about, that this was not a defeat, it was a strategic retreat or other things, we will continue to do the same thing again. But if you're explicit, it sends a strong message. We need to change our attitude. You need to change the way we operate. We need to change the way we relate with our voters. and government must accept. We've been defending that some of the service delivery challenges were not out of our own making, but the voters have just written a report about us, that you must take ownership of all the flaws that this government is characterized to have done, from corruption, failing to fight crime, service delivery related matters. So when we are explicit that we lost elections, and there's a possibility that we might not even come back, to me, I think it can be a wake-up call that this is the last chance. Actually, I still think it's a miracle that with 36% we are on the driver's seat of this government. It's just a miracle. So it must serve as a notice, it must serve as a wake-up call, and we must change our attitude, we must change our approach. I always said, and when I closed the Lekgotla, I said, I want one day when voters see us, they must say, shame. After they've lost elections, they are on time, they are respecting, they are listening. Until we get that, and until we still behave as if we are in charge, then it means the laws have not sunk, and we still behave as if we are in charge, and we're not in charge. If the political parties that are working with us, and we're also fortunate, it's not political parties that are rigid, it's not political parties that are difficult, but if they change their attitude, that's the end of us. So I really believe we must be forthright, we must be honest with ourselves, we must not hide behind a broomstick, we must just confront the challenges, and that's why the things that we committed to do, the Lekgotla is accepted. We must continue with the transformer program of ensuring communities have electricity. We must continue with our job creation programs, both the instant ones and the permanent ones. That is why we've announced the investment we've announced during our State of the Province address. We must strengthen our efforts to fight crime, and we must improve our infrastructure, like the CBD of Johannesburg. Those are the things that voters told us almost 9 months before elections. So we just have to recover and deal with those particular issues head on.